You walked away, you cut the contact, you disappeared, and yet they are not chasing, they are not breaking, they are not knocking at your door in the middle of the night, begging for your attention. And in that quiet moment, my friends, you begin to wonder, did I do something wrong? Did I lose them forever? Was the silence I gave not enough? Here's the truth. Silence by itself is not magic. Silence without energy, without mystery, without presence, is nothing more than emptiness. And emptiness can be ignored. Think of it like this, folks. Imagine you're reading a book, and halfway through the story, the pages are suddenly blank. For a moment, you're curious. But if nothing else is written, eventually you close it and move on. That is how your silence feels to them if you don't understand the deeper game. It isn't about cutting contact and waiting. It's about creating a story that their mind cannot put down. Because silence is not punishment. It is transformation. It is a weapon, but only in the hands of someone who knows how to wield it. I want you to see the difference. A person who disappears but remains the same will not be missed. Their silence looks like absence, and absence fades into the background like furniture in a room. But a person who disappears and grows sharper, calmer, and stronger, that silence does not fade. It begins to haunt. It makes people sit at night asking themselves, what if I lost something I can never replace? That is the kind of silence that burns, the kind that lingers. And my friends, that is the silence you must create. The dangerous truth nobody wants to admit is that walking away alone does not guarantee their regret. At first, they might even feel relieved. They might smile, thinking they have won. But give it time. The mind cannot live without answers. When there is no contact, no closure, no explanation, the human brain starts to fill in the blanks, and the blanks become obsession. They start to ask, what are you doing? Who are you with? Why haven't you come back? That is the hidden power of silence, when it is paired with growth, with confidence, with mystery. Let me tell you something powerful, folks. You are not losing them. You are reshaping them. The longer they go without you, the more their mind paints you as bigger, stronger, more valuable. Even if they are in someone else's arms, your shadow follows them. That person they replaced you with becomes a mirror, a reminder of what they cannot recreate. You cannot copy true energy. You cannot replace presence. And when your silence carries weight, when your energy has shifted, they feel it in ways they cannot explain. So don't fall into the lie that silence is failing you. It is not failing, it is building. Think of it like a storm gathering on the horizon. At first, the sky looks calm, even bright. But slowly, the winds shift. The air grows heavy. Then, suddenly, the storm breaks all at once. That is how silence works. It is quiet until it is not. And when it finally breaks inside their mind, regret floods them like rain. Stay calm, my friends. Do not chase. Do not beg. Do not doubt yourself. Your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. You are not losing them. You are teaching them your value. You are reminding them of what cannot be replaced. That is the dangerous truth. That is the beauty of Stoic control. You hold the power because you do not fear the void. So here's what I want you to understand, my friends. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is not defeat. Your silence is the fire they can't put out, the mystery they can't solve, the lesson they can't escape. And if you really want this to sink in, not just as words you heard today, but as a truth you carry with you, I want you to write it below. Type it out. Let the world see it. My silence is untouchable. Don't just whisper it in your head, declare it. That's how you take back control, Because once you put those words out, once you stamp them into the comments, you are telling yourself and everyone watching, I am no longer waiting to be chosen. I am the storm they never saw coming. So if this opened your eyes, if it shook you awake even a little, hit that like button, subscribe right now, and stay with me. We're just scratching the surface, and what's coming next is going to change how you see everything. Number 1. The mistake everyone makes with silence. Most people get silence wrong. They treat it like punishment. They think if they cut off contact, if they stop speaking, if they disappear, the other person will immediately break down. They imagine their phone buzzing with desperate messages, their ex showing up at their door, begging for answers. But my friends, silence does not work that way. Silence by itself is not enough. If silence is used with the wrong mindset, it becomes nothing more than absence. And absence can be ignored. Silence is not punishment, it is transformation. Let me explain. Imagine you have a book in your hands. You are halfway through, the story has your attention, and suddenly the next page is blank. At first your curiosity spikes, but if every page after that is also blank, eventually you close the book and set it aside. That is how your silence feels if nothing about you changes. If you disappear but remain the same, they quickly realize the story is over. They feel no tension, no mystery, no haunting pull. They just see emptiness, and emptiness is forgettable. Now ask yourself, why would they chase if your silence feels like an ending they can accept? Why would they regret losing you if the person they knew is the same person who vanished? If nothing has shifted in your energy, your habits, your presence, then what exactly are they supposed to miss? These are hard questions, but they are necessary ones, because if you want silence to work, it cannot be passive. It cannot be you sitting in a room, waiting for the phone to light up. It has to be alive. It has to evolve. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Think about how that applies here. Many people walk away and go silent, but deep down, they are still chasing in their minds. They are still waiting, still begging, still obsessed. Their silence is hollow because their energy screams neediness, even if their mouth is shut. The other person can feel that. Energy does not lie. True silence, the kind that transforms, is when you are no longer waiting for them in secret. It is when you are walking away, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That is when silence becomes powerful. Let me give you another picture. Think of a blacksmith. He takes raw iron and places it into the fire. If he just leaves it sitting cold, it remains what it always was, hard, dull, unchanged. But when it passes through heat, through transformation, it comes out stronger, sharper, and unrecognizable compared to what it was before. Your silence must be that fire. You cannot vanish and stay raw iron. You must vanish and return as steel. Otherwise, there's no shift, no shock, no impact. And here's the beauty. When you transform in silence, they feel it. Even without words, even without contact, they sense something different. Your presence, even from afar, carries weight. Suddenly, their mind begins to compare the you they thought they knew with the you they cannot fully grasp anymore. That gap, that mystery, that transformation is what drives regret. That is what pulls at their subconscious late at night. But let's be honest, folks, it's not easy. Silence is uncomfortable. Silence feels like waiting in the dark. You might ask yourself, what if they forget me? What if they move on for good? What if I am making a mistake by staying away? These doubts are normal, but this is exactly where Stoicism comes in. The Stoic does not control the other person's reaction. The Stoic does not beg for outcomes. The Stoic focuses only on what they can control, themselves. And what you can control in silence is your growth, your strength, your transformation. So let me ask you, are you punishing them with silence, or are you rebuilding yourself with silence? There is a world of difference between the two. One creates emptiness, the other creates power. One makes you easy to forget, the other makes you impossible to replace. Which one do you want to be? Understand this. They may not break right away. They may not run back immediately. But every day your silence carries transformation. You become harder to ignore. They might smile in public. They might hold someone else's hand. But deep down, their subconscious is replaying your story. And now it's not the same old story. It's a mystery, a haunting, an unfinished chapter they cannot resolve. That is the dangerous truth about silence. When it is transformation, it does not fade, it grows. Think of water dripping on stone. One drop does not leave a mark, but over time the stone wears away. Silence works the same way. At first they resist. At first they pretend they are fine. But drip by drip, day by day, the weight of your absence grows heavier. And when they finally break, it will not be because you punished them. It will be because your silence transformed you into someone they cannot stop thinking about. So, my friends, do not waste this power. Don't sit in silence like a prisoner waiting for a knock at the door. Sit in silence like a king, like a queen, rebuilding the walls of your castle. Grow sharper, grow calmer, grow untouchable. Make your silence carry energy so powerful that even if they are lying beside someone else, your memory is the one whispering in their ear. And remember this, silence is not about waiting, it is about becoming. When you disappear, let it be the last time they see the old version of you, because the next time they cross your path, you will be unrecognizable in your strength. That is how silence wins. That is how silence haunts. Write this in the comments if you feel it in your soul. I transform in silence. Don't just type it, mean it, live it. Let it remind you that you are not fading, you are forging. Number 2. Why they still seem unaffected. They still seem unaffected, don't they? You've walked away, you've cut the contact, you've gone silent, and yet they move around like nothing happened. They post their little smiles, they talk to their friends, maybe even flaunt someone new. And you sit there wondering, why isn't it working? Why do they look so untouched while I'm the one carrying the weight of this silence? My friends, the answer is not that they don't care. The answer is that the brain can't feel loss without contrast. Psychology tells us this simple truth. The mind only registers change when there is a before and an after, a presence and then an absence. If you walked away but nothing about you shifted, they don't feel the gap yet. Think of it this way. If you drink the same coffee every morning, the taste becomes background noise. But skip it one day, and suddenly your body screams at you. The absence is sharp because it breaks the rhythm. It disrupts the pattern. But here's the catch. If you skip the coffee but replace it with the same habits, the same laziness, the same predictable presence online, then the rhythm doesn't really feel broken. They see no contrast. The silence feels like routine, not disruption. That's why they seem unaffected. Here's where Stoicism and real psychology come together. You don't create regret just by leaving. You create regret by creating contrast. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." That applies here. They don't wake up to what they've lost until they feel the pain of difference. If the you that walked away is the same you they always knew, same habits, same energy, same presence, then there is no sharp edge to your absence. It feels like a blank page, not a torn-out chapter. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine someone takes a painting off your wall. If that wall is already empty, you barely notice. But if the wall was full of color, detail, and life, its sudden emptiness screams at you every time you pass by. Your silence is that wall. If your energy, your growth, your transformation is visible, then when you vanish, it is a violent shift. It leaves them restless. But if you vanish without showing any difference, the wall feels bare in the same way it always did. That is why they seem unaffected. And I know, folks, it hurts to watch them play it cool. It hurts to see no reaction. But the truth is, silence takes time. Their mind doesn't immediately register what's gone. It slowly builds the weight of what's missing. Right now they may look fine, but inside, the subconscious is already at work. The contrast will come when they realize your silence is not just space, it's transformation. So instead of asking, why don't they miss me yet, ask yourself this: what am I doing in my silence that makes my absence unforgettable? Are you building yourself into someone stronger, calmer, sharper, or are you simply waiting? Because waiting is absence, and absence can be ignored. Transformation is presence, even when you're gone. That's what they feel. That's what they can't escape. And when that contrast hits, when they realize you are no longer the person they thought they could play with, that's when the regret begins. That's when the brain flips and says, wait, what if I've lost something rare? What if I've lost something I'll never see again? That fear, that shift, is what turns your silence into obsession. So don't panic, my friends. Don't believe the lie that they don't care just because they look unaffected right now. They are simply blind to the contrast for now. But silence, when paired with transformation, will make the gap so sharp, so unbearable, that they will feel it every single day. Write this in the comments if you understand the truth. My silence creates contrast. Let it be your reminder that you are not fading, you are sharpening their regret. Number 3. Absence versus obsession, the hidden difference. Absence and obsession. At first glance, they might look the same. You're gone, you're silent, you've stepped back from their world. But the truth, my friends, is that there's a hidden difference. Absence is simply space. Obsession is what happens when that space is filled with curiosity, regret, and endless comparisons. One makes you easy to forget. The other makes you impossible to escape. And the line between the two is drawn not by silence alone, but by what your silence does to their mind. Think about it this way. Imagine you walk into a room where a chair has been moved. At first, you notice the empty spot, but after a while, your eyes adjust. You stop thinking about it, and life moves on. That's absence. It's noticed, then accepted. But now picture this. Instead of simply removing the chair, someone replaces it with a locked box. Every time you see that spot, you wonder what's inside. Your imagination starts running, questions pile up, and the mystery grows heavier each day. That's obsession. Your silence must not feel like a chair removed. It must feel like a locked box they cannot stop thinking about. And here's where most people make the mistake. They believe that walking away is enough, that absence alone will spark regret. But absence without unpredictability, without change, is static. It becomes background noise. To transform absence into obsession, you must become unpredictable in silence. Not chaotic, not desperate, but mysterious. They must not know what you're doing, how you're feeling, or who you're with. That uncertainty keeps their mind working overtime, trying to fill the blanks with stories about you. And the brain, my friends, is wired to hate unanswered questions. Carl Jung once said, "Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health." In relationships, the difficulty, the unknown, the mystery, it is what keeps the mind alive. If they believe they have you figured out, if they think they know your next move, your silence will feel like absence. But if you become unpredictable, if your silence carries the weight of transformation, then suddenly they are not comfortable anymore. They are restless. They are haunted. Let me give you a simple metaphor. Fire left alone will eventually burn out. But if you add air, if you change the conditions, it flares back to life. Your silence is that fire. If it's just absence, it burns out quickly in their mind. But if you add mystery, growth, unpredictability, you give their thoughts air to breathe. You keep the flame alive inside them. They start checking, comparing, replaying. Even if they're with someone else, your shadow lingers because your silence doesn't feel like nothing. It feels like something they cannot define. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't unpredictability manipulative? Isn't silence already enough? But remember, this isn't about playing games. This is about stepping into your own growth so fully that they can no longer predict you. They thought you would come crawling back. You didn't. They thought you'd stay broken. You didn't. They thought they knew your patterns, but you shattered them. That is the kind of unpredictability that breeds obsession. Absence is easy for them to ignore. Obsession is impossible to escape. And obsession is what makes people sit awake at night, replaying every conversation, every detail, every mistake. They start asking themselves, why did I let this person go? Why can't I stop thinking about them? What are they doing right now? Those questions do not arise from absence. They are born from the mystery your silence creates. So, my friends, don't settle for absence. Don't just disappear and hope for the best. Become the locked box they cannot open, the fire that refuses to die out, the story that refuses to end. That is how silence becomes obsession. That is how you transform from someone they lost into someone they cannot get out of their mind. Write this in the comments to burn it into your mind. I turn absence into obsession. Declare it, own it, let it shape the way you carry yourself in silence. Number 4. How they trick themselves into feeling. Fine. At first, they convince themselves your silence means freedom. That's the game they play inside their mind. They look around and say, finally, no drama, no texts, no pressure. I can breathe again. They wear this mask of being fine, laughing with friends, posting pictures, maybe even jumping into something new. On the surface, it looks like they've won. It looks like your silence has no effect. But my friends, that is the trick of the mind. What feels like freedom in the beginning almost always turns into a prison later, because freedom without satisfaction collapses into longing. Think about it. Imagine someone who quits their job, shouts, "I'm finally free," and walks out the door. At first, it feels incredible. They sleep in, watch TV, and tell everyone they're living life on their own terms. But then the bills come. The days get long, the excitement fades, and suddenly that freedom feels heavy. Suddenly they miss the structure, the paycheck, the stability they thought they hated. That is exactly how your silence works. At first they celebrate. They trick themselves into thinking you were the problem, and that being rid of you is the prize. But give it time. The illusion always fades. The brain is clever at telling itself stories to avoid pain. When you go silent, their ego rushes in to protect them. It whispers, "This is good. You didn't need them anyway. You're better off now." And for a while, they believe it. But here's where psychology reveals the truth. The mind cannot live on ego alone. It needs real satisfaction to maintain the illusion. If they try to replace you with someone new, but that person doesn't measure up, cracks appear. If they dive into distractions, but those distractions eventually bore them, the illusion shatters. The ego can only patch the hole for so long. Carl Jung once wrote, "What you resist persists." That applies here. The more they resist the thought of missing you, the louder it becomes. They try to convince themselves they're fine, but beneath that surface, your absence is building pressure. Their denial becomes obsession. Their fake laughter becomes empty. And the moment their freedom fails to deliver the joy they imagined, longing rushes in like a flood. Let me give you a picture. Imagine someone runs out of a cage, thinking they are free, but a few steps later, they realize they are standing in the middle of a desert. No food, no water, no shade. The cage may have felt like a trap, but at least it provided something. Now, in this endless desert, they feel the truth. They weren't escaping you, they were escaping themselves. And in the silence, you become the oasis their mind keeps running back to. This is why you must not panic when they look fine in the beginning. Their smile is a mask. Their freedom is temporary. Their tricks cannot last forever. Because eventually, the desert sets in. Eventually, they realize that what they thought was relief was really just emptiness. And emptiness, my friends, always turns into longing. So hold your ground. Don't break your silence out of fear. Don't chase them because they look happy. They are only tricking themselves, and time will break the illusion. Your silence is not failing. It is working beneath the surface, dismantling their defenses piece by piece. And when the cracks finally open, longing pours through. That is when they begin to feel what they've been running from all along, the truth that you cannot be replaced. Write this in the comments to lock it into your mind. Their freedom becomes longing. Let those words remind you that the beginning is not the end. Number 5. The psychological magnet effect of silence. Uncertainty is addictive, my friends. It's one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When you vanish without explanation, when you go silent without a script for them to follow, their mind does what it is wired to do. It starts working overtime to fill in the blanks. The brain cannot tolerate uncertainty. It has to create a story. And the more unanswered questions they have about you, the more addicted they become to replaying your memory, trying to solve a puzzle that has no clear answer. This is what I call the magnet effect of silence. Think of it like this. Imagine someone sends you a message that just says, "We need to talk," and then nothing. Hours go by, days go by. That silence is louder than any words they could have sent. Your brain spins stories. Is it good news? Bad news? Did I do something wrong? Are they hiding something? That's the magnet effect. The uncertainty drags you back to the thought again and again, like a magnet pulling at a piece of metal. That's exactly what happens in their mind when you go silent without explanation. At first, they may think they're fine. They may even enjoy the space. But then the questions creep in. Why did you really stop talking? Are you seeing someone else? Did you finally lose interest? Have you become better without them? Each question grows heavier because you're not there to answer it. And because the brain hates empty space, it fills it with imagined stories, and those stories often exaggerate your value. They start thinking you're living a life they can't access, building strength they can't match, becoming someone they might never get back. That is obsession born from uncertainty. Carl Jung said, "The most intense conflicts, if overcome, leave behind a sense of security and calm that is not easily disturbed." Your silence creates that conflict in their mind. It unsettles them. It shakes their sense of control. They thought they knew you, thought they could predict you, thought you'd always be around. And now, with no explanation, they're lost. The ground they stood on is gone, and in that chaos, they crave answers. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture a locked door in your house. Every other door you can open freely, but this one stays closed. You pass it day after day, and at first you ignore it. But over time you start wondering what's behind it. Why is it locked? You think about it more than any other room, even though you've never stepped inside. That's what your silence becomes, a locked door in their mind. And the more they can't open it, the more it consumes them. And here's the beautiful part. The magnet effect doesn't need you to say or do anything. The less you explain, the stronger it gets. Because once you give answers, the mystery is gone. But when you remain unpredictable, when you stay silent and let them sit in the uncertainty, their thoughts do the work for you. They replay conversations. They scroll through memories. They compare you to whoever is next to them now. And more often than not, those comparisons leave you shining brighter, because their imagination idealizes what is missing. That's why silence, when done right, is not passive. It's active. It works in their mind like gravity. It pulls them back again and again until the weight of curiosity and regret becomes unbearable. Absence without mystery fades, but silence with uncertainty. That becomes a magnet they cannot resist. So, my friends, don't rush to break the silence because you fear being forgotten. You are not being forgotten. You are becoming unforgettable. Every unanswered question, every moment of confusion, every sleepless night is proof that the magnet is working. Your silence is not empty, it is electric. Write this in the comments to claim it as your truth. My silence pulls them in. Put it there, let it stamp itself into your mind, and remember, you don't need to chase what is already being drawn back to you. Number 6. What happens when they see you differently? The secret is transformation, my friends. Silence on its own is a seed, but transformation is the sunlight and the rain that makes it grow into something unstoppable. When you combine silence with visible change, confidence, mystery, growth, you don't just step out of their life quietly, you shatter their perception of you. You force their mind to question everything they thought they knew. And here's the most powerful part. It works even if they are with someone else. Let's be honest. At first, when you walk away, they might smirk. They might shrug and say, they'll be back. They always come back. They convince themselves you'll remain who you always were, predictable, available, unchanged. But then, something strange happens. Time passes, and when they catch a glimpse of you, whether it's through mutual friends, a photo, or even just sensing your energy, they realize you're not the same. You've grown. You've leveled up. You've become sharper, calmer, harder to reach, and suddenly their certainty begins to collapse. Think of it like a mirror, folks. When they look back at their memory of you, they expect to see the same reflection, but instead they see someone new, someone stronger. It's unsettling, it's confusing, it's magnetic. Carl Jung once wrote, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That's the essence of transformation in silence. You are not defined by the breakup, the rejection, or the betrayal. You are defined by what you chose to build in the quiet. Imagine this scenario. They're out with someone else, laughing, pretending they've moved on. But then, in the back of their mind, they remember you. Only now, the you they picture isn't weak, isn't desperate, isn't waiting. It's someone glowing with self-respect, someone radiating an energy they can't quite name. And instantly, a seed of doubt takes root. Did I make a mistake? Did I underestimate them? Have they become someone I no longer deserve? That seed grows every time they see you moving differently, every time they hear whispers of your progress, every time they compare the reality of their new situation to the memory of you. And make no mistake, they will compare. Humans are wired to measure, to weigh, to analyze what they had against what they have. When your silence is filled with transformation, you always come out on top, because you've become unpredictable. They no longer know what to expect from you, and that uncertainty drives their mind into obsession. Here's the paradox. The less you show them directly, the more powerful the transformation feels. It's not about flaunting every change. It's about carrying yourself in such a way that even from a distance, they sense the difference. Your posture, your calm, your mystery, all of it whispers, I don't need you. I don't wait for you. I have become more without you. That is when their ego crumbles. That is when their pride bows to regret. Think of a caterpillar, folks. While it hides in silence, the world forgets about it. But when it emerges, it's unrecognizable, a butterfly, free and untouchable. That's what happens when you transform in silence. They thought you were gone, thought you were weak, but you were becoming something greater all along. So don't underestimate the power of visible change. Let your silence be the cocoon, and let your growth be the wings that remind them you cannot be replaced. And when they see you differently, even if they're lying beside someone else, that image of the new you will haunt them, because deep down they'll know they lost someone they can never get back. Write this in the comments, my friends. I rise in silence. Say it with conviction, type it like you mean it, because it's not just words, it's a declaration. Number 7. The magical twist that flips the power. The magical twist, my friends, is this. Silence only becomes powerful when it's not about waiting for them, but about moving like you never needed them in the first place. This is the part most people never understand. They walk away. They go quiet, but inside they're still pacing the floor, checking their phone, hoping, waiting. That kind of silence is hollow. It's like standing outside their door with your hand over your mouth. You're silent, but you're still present in spirit. They can feel it, and because they feel it, they don't panic. They think, they're still there, still waiting for me, still needing me. I have time. That's absence, not power. But when you stop waiting, when you shift your energy into your own life, into your own growth, into moving as though they were just one chapter of your story instead of the entire book, suddenly the silence stings. Suddenly they feel the threat. What if they really don't care anymore? What if I wasn't as important as I thought? And that fear, that sharp realization, is what triggers the chase. Think of it like a fire, folks. As long as you're hovering nearby with wood and kindling, the flame knows it will never die out. But if you walk away, if you stop feeding it, the fire starts to panic. It sputters, gasps, fights to survive. That's what your silence does when it's not about waiting. It starves their ego. And the ego hates to starve. The ego will do anything to prove it still matters, even crawl back to the very person it once dismissed. Carl Jung once said, "Where wisdom reigns, there is no conflict between thinking and feeling." In this context, wisdom is knowing that real silence isn't about hoping they notice you. It's about becoming so whole, so grounded, so present in yourself that their absence no longer shakes you. That inner calm, that refusal to chase, that confidence to live fully without them, that is what rattles them to their core, because now they feel the conflict between their thinking and their feeling. They told themselves they'd be fine without you, but when they sense you truly don't need them, their feelings revolt. Their heart whispers what their pride tried to hide. I can't lose this. I can't let them slip away for good. Picture this. They're scrolling through their phone, half expecting to see your name pop up with some message, but it doesn't. Days pass, weeks pass. They check again. Still nothing. Slowly, doubt creeps in. Then one night, they lie awake, staring at the ceiling, and the thought hits like a thunderbolt. Maybe they're not coming back. Maybe they're moving on. That's when panic sets in. That's when the chase begins. And the beauty of this twist is that you don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate or play games. All you have to do is stop centering your world around them. Pour into yourself. Live fully, loudly, confidently. Let your silence be paired with movement, with growth, with a life so rich it whispers, I never needed you to begin with. That is the kind of silence they cannot ignore. So remember this, my friends. Silence used as waiting keeps them comfortable. Silence used as freedom makes them restless. When they believe you don't need them anymore, when they feel that gap between who you were and who you've become, they begin to fear the one thing the human mind hates most, irrelevance. And that fear will drive them straight back to your door. Write this in the comments to make it yours. I move like I don't need them. Let those words remind you every day that your silence is not begging, it's becoming. Number 8. The return. Why they always come back. The dangerous truth, my friends, is that silence doesn't shatter them overnight. It's not an instant victory, not a quick collapse. At first they hold steady. At first they convince themselves they are fine without you. But silence has a way of pressing in slowly, layer after layer, like water against a dam. It builds in their subconscious, creeping into their quiet moments, haunting them when they least expect it. And then, one day, it bursts. The pressure becomes too much to bear. And when it does, they always come back. Not because you begged, not because you reminded them, but because silence was never just absence. It was proof that you were unforgettable. Think of it like a ticking clock in a room. At first, you don't notice it, but when the room grows quiet, the ticking grows louder, 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 until it's all you can hear. That's what your silence becomes for them. At first, it's faint, pushed to the back of their mind. But as time passes and the illusions fade, your absence starts to echo. Every memory of you grows sharper, every mistake they made weighs heavier, and one day they realize this silence is not emptiness. This silence is a mirror reflecting everything they lost. Even if they are with someone else, that pressure does not stop. They compare, they measure, they replay, and every time they do, your memory outshines the present moment, because replacements can fill space, but they cannot erase energy. And your silence, charged with growth, confidence and mystery, reminds them of what they cannot find again. They thought they could move on easily. But the longer you stay silent, the clearer it becomes. They didn't just lose someone, they lost the one thing they can't replace. Carl Jung said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Your silence is that pain for them. It wakes them up. It forces them to confront the truth they avoided. You mattered more than they admitted. And the bond they tried to dismiss has only grown heavier in your absence." That realization cuts through their pride like a blade. Pride says, "Stay strong, don't reach out." But longing whispers louder, "What if it's too late? What if I've lost them forever?" And that fear drives them back to you. Let me give you a picture. Imagine someone walking through a tunnel. At first, they see light behind them and move forward with confidence. But as they go deeper, the tunnel darkens, the light fades, and suddenly they realize they don't know the way out. Panic sets in. They turn back, searching desperately for the light they left behind. That light, my friends, is you. They may wander, they may stumble, but eventually they run back, because the silence showed them that without you, the path grows darker. And here's the part that gives you back your power. When they return, they are not the same. They come back softer, humbler, more aware, because silence has already done the teaching. Silence has already proven your worth. You didn't have to shout. You didn't have to beg. You simply lived in such a way that your absence became unforgettable. So don't doubt yourself when they don't break right away. Don't panic when their mask looks strong. Silence is patient. Silence is relentless. Silence wins not in a day, but in the pressure it builds over time. And when it finally breaks them, when they come back, it will be with the full weight of regret in their chest.